Welcome back to the Video Game Brothers. That's Brother Phil and I'm Brother Andy, and today we're going to be talking about the PlayStation Classic that is coming out very soon at a store near you.
This is not the PlayStation Classic. This is a classic, and it is a PlayStation. This is our original Sony PlayStation.
It is. I kept the box to everything back then.
All these years,
everything you see, this PlayStation 2, I don't know if you can see the Nintendo 64 box up there. But I always kept every box to everything.
We've done that since the PlayStation,
since the 90s.
I don't have our Super Nintendo box or anything before that, but yeah, I've kept everything.
Every game I had, I always kept the box to it.
Me too.
So this is our original PlayStation.
So the reason, my memory is, 1994, 1995, awaiting the next Nintendo system, because that's all we ever had was Nintendo consoles.
Up until that point, yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the video game magazines were like, oh, you know what, the Final Fantasy series is moving to PlayStation, it's not going to be on Nintendo. And we were like, we have to get a PlayStation. We don't have a choice.
Yeah.
We have to get it.
And it didn't mean that we weren't going to get a Nintendo. I mean, that was a no-brainer as well.
Yeah, we're not going to miss out on Mario and Zelda, but we can't not play the next game in the Final Fantasy series.
Yeah.
We had to get a PlayStation.
Plus, I don't know about you, but I really wanted Mortal Kombat 3. And I wanted it on a next-gen console, because I remember at that time I thought, this is going to be the best way to play this game. Now, in retrospect, I have since played Mortal Kombat 3 on the Super Nintendo, and it is an excellent port. I would have been very satisfied with that port back in the day.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
But for some reason, I really wanted it on PlayStation, so I don't know. I got it right away.
So we were early adopters. This is the very first version of the box that came out, and this is kind of a harder to find version of the box.
Yeah. This is 1995. It was the year it came out. We got this thing. So
the PlayStation Classic, as you're watching this video, comes out tomorrow.
Yeah.
December 3rd. When it was announced, I don't know, a month or two ago, there's that initial excitement, like, yeah, they're finally doing what Nintendo's doing. And then we all looked at the game list. We started scratching our heads going,
dude,
what is happening here?
This game list is a complete head-scratcher. And I don't hate these games. I'm just baffled at this selection. I don't understand how they came up with this list of games. I don't get it.
So let's go through them real quick. Battle Arena Toshinden. I think this was a launch title. We had it, right? The long box?
Yeah.
Back in the day.
It was one of the first PlayStation games I ever got.
When the system came out, there were only a handful of games. It's featured on the back of the box. Battle Arena Toshinden, right next to Ridge Racer, which we also had. I remember playing Toshinden for a bit and just kind of thinking, I don't know, Street Fighter kind of seems like a better game to me.
It was one of the first 3D-ish fighting games where you could sort of rotate your character a little bit.
When you just said one of the first 3D, you can stop right there, and then you can just know that this game has probably aged like garbage.
Yeah. The fighters jump like they're on the moon. Like, that
I remember that, yeah.
Weird gravity where it's like, why is everything so slow? And it has not aged.
No one wants to play this game.
This is not a good game anymore.
Cool Borders 2, I don't know.
It's another snowboarding game. There were a zillion snowboarding games in the late 90s. Freaking Final Fantasy VII had a mini game where you're snowboarding. Like, they had to shoehorn this idea into everything back then.
Not interested. Destruction Derby.
It was okay.
Does anybody really care about this game now? Who's going to play this game?
I don't know.
Final Fantasy VII. Okay, now we're getting into a good title here, right? Everyone loved Final Fantasy VII. This was the game that really was the catalyst for you and I getting the system. Grand Theft Auto 1, nobody wants to play this game today. Nobody.
There was a reason Grand Theft Auto did not get super popular until the third title.
Yep.
Grand Theft Auto 1, it's a sort of overhead bird's eye view of you walking around, and I don't know.
Honestly, the graphic, it feels like it could have been done on the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
I don't know. Nobody wants to play this game. Intelligent Cube, look, I never even played it.
It's a puzzle game. There's probably a million puzzle games almost exactly like it on your iPhone.
Not interested.
Whoop-de-doo.
Jumping Flash.
It was okay. I played it back in the day. It was one of the first attempts at a 3D platformer, and it was just okay. And I can't imagine it's aged very well.
Metal Gear Solid. Turns 20 this year.
We could do a whole video on Metal Gear Solid.
Outstanding game.
I loved it back in the day. I'm afraid to play it again because the control scheme has probably not aged well at all. But it does belong on this list. I get it. Yeah. Okay.
But we're not going to get a DualShock with the Classic. So how do you play Metal Gear Solid without a DualShock?
I don't know.
Mr. Driller. First question, what is Mr. Driller?
It's another puzzle game.
All right.
Puzzle games are almost all like a public domain type of concept where they just rinse and repeat on every Android and iPhone and game system out there, and they're just, I don't know, I've never played Mr. Driller, but you could probably find something very similar to it for free on your iPhone.
Probably.
I'm just guessing. I don't know.
Oddworld, Abe's Odyssey.
That is a good choice.
Yeah,
that was a really fun game.
I have a lot of memories with this game. I remember staying up very late at night.
I remember literally staying up all night until the sun came
funny,
up.
We both have that same memory. I don't know
Oddworld.
why. It was very addictive. It was like, how do you? I have to do this.
Yeah, that is a very fun game, and it's probably still playable because it's not 3D.
Exactly. Rayman.
Rayman,
we had this game too, didn't we?
Yeah. I could take it or leave it, to be honest. It was okay.
There's a bunch of other Rayman games out there that are a lot better. So, I don't know. Resident Evil Director's Cut.
I had all the Resident Evil games back in the day, but the control scheme is so antiquated, I just don't see how anyone can go back to playing that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Look,
if you can, great, hats off to you, but dude... In 2018, I'm sorry, I cannot go back to that control scheme.
You can't. The first Persona game is on here. Why isn't the second Persona game on here? Look, nobody likes the first Persona. And apparently everyone loves the second Persona. Full disclosure, I've never played either of them, but it's just another baffling choice. Why the first one and not the second one?
I don't know.
Ridge Racer Type 4.
Okay.
All right.
Ridge Racer was fun. We had
the first one.
We had the first 3, I think.
Did we?
Yeah.
I loved the original Ridge Racer. I got so good at that game. I was almost ashamed of how good I was.
It was fun.
Game.
You could take the game out while leaving the system on and put in like a music CD, and it would play your own music.
Yeah.
It was kind of mind blowing at that time. I mean, I'd never imagine taking out an NES game while you're playing it and it like still worked. Like, I don't know. That to me was crazy.
It was crazy. I just remember the controls were not realistic at all in terms of like controlling an automobile.
No
but
way.
That's what I loved about it. It wasn't realistic. It was what you would want it to be. It wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't realistic.
But in hindsight, there are 10 billion racers out there, and Ridge Racer 4 doesn't really stand
And how
out
about
to me.
everyone loves Driver and everyone loves Gran Turismo and Gran Turismo 2. Why aren't these games on here?
So the Gran Turismo games, I get why they're not on here. The licensing is very expensive.
Okay, pay Subaru a couple of bucks. Get it on here.
It's not just Subaru. It's GM. It's every car manufacturer ever in 1995, and
pay him a couple
get
bucks.
it, but it would take more than a couple bucks. I don't know. I'll give him a pass on that.
All right, we'll give him a pass on
I
that.
Get it.
Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo. I've heard a lot of good things about this game, but you know what? It's another puzzle game.
Another puzzle game.
No.
Go on your iPhone, you're going to find something very similar.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Siphon Filter, probably a good choice.
Siphon Filter was fun, but again, the control scheme, to try to play that game in 2018, knock yourself out. I don't know.
Tekken 3.
Yes. I'm supporting Tekken 2 and 3 were
I remember
solid,
getting Tekken 2, and
super good.
Really, really solid game.
Yeah.
Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six.
This is what's known as shovelware. This is one of those games that we throw in the shovelware pile.
You find it at a garage sale. Kobe.
Dude, who asked for this?
Nobody wants this game.
Nobody wants this.
Twisted Metal. Why not Twisted Metal 2?
Yeah.
It's just a baffling choice. We get Persona 1, but not Persona 2. Twisted Metal, not Twisted Metal 2. Grand Theft Auto 1.
Resident Evil, but not Resident Evil 2.
Final Fantasy 7, not 8 and 9. And yet we get Ridge Racer Type 4, but not the original Ridge Racer. So it's not like they're against sequels. Again, it's just baffling to me. It's baffling.
I don't know how they decided this.
Wild Arms, look, I think that's a great choice.
Wild Arms was a great game, but it's still a little baffling because there are so many better RPGs for the PS1.
Oh, man.
Who decided this list? How did they come up with this? I can't figure this out. My next thought was, well, maybe they just went on sales figures. Maybe they just looked at the top 20 best-selling PlayStation games and said, let's just port those over, minus your Gran Turismo and minus your, maybe some sports titles that no one really cares about anymore. It turns out they didn't do that at all, because I looked at the top best-selling PlayStation games and these are not it at all. How did they come up with this list?
Let's take a look at the Super Nintendo Classic for a minute. All right, you want to talk about value? For $80, you're getting 2 controllers, and you're getting Earthbound, Final Fantasy III, Secret of Mana, Super Mario RPG. Those games, those 4 games collectively, if you were to go out and purchase those original cartridges, you'd be out $300 or $400. I don't know. 100. So the value is phenomenal. And then the rest of the games, I mean, they're just a bunch of no-brainers. Mario World 2, Mario Kart, Star Fox, F-Zero, Zelda,
Super Metroid,
Metroid, no Super Punch-Out, Street Fighter 2. Just great games that everyone loves. They're all very playable today. The value is incredible. And on the NES Classic, more of the same, right? We have both Zeldas, we have all 3 Marios, Final Fantasy, Punch-Out. I mean, this PlayStation Classic is just baffling to me.
It feels like it's all fillers, except for a couple games.
How about Chrono Cross, Legend of Dragoon, Legend of Legaia, Final Fantasy 8 or 9, Grandia, Suikoden 2, Xenogears. Where are these games? Again, if this was the Super Nintendo Classic, those games would have been there. At least half of them.
That's part of the problem. Is it's $100 for the PlayStation Classic, which is another step up. Mm-hmm. And for $100, I think they really needed to sweeten the pot a little bit with some of these more expensive titles, like a Suikoden 1 or 2, or a Klonoa, which is a really, really highly loved game by a lot of people. It's a platformer. It's a 2D platformer, probably still playable today, unlike a lot of old platformers. It's very expensive. It's well over $100 for that game. That would have really sweetened the pot to justify a $100 price tag. Instead, we get Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six.
Yeah.
The game has no value at all. No one really
Destruction
wants to play
Derby
it.
and Twisted Metal.
And again, these weren't necessarily big sellers on this list. Mm-mm. Intelligent Cube, Mr. Driller, even Siphon Filter was not a huge seller back in the day. It really was not.
No, where's Breath of Fire 3 and 4, Parasite Eve,
in
Valkyrie Profile? I mean,
where's the really playable platformer mascot type of Crash, Spyro, Croc, or Klonoa? Like I said, those are all missing. We got 2 platformers. We got Rayman and Oddworld, which is actually a good choice. I like Oddworld.
What I would want in a classic console is I would want games that are more or less stuck on that console, right? Again, to use the Super Nintendo as an example, where else are you going to play Earthbound? Where else are you going to play Castlevania 4? Where else are you going to play Final Fantasy 3, Super Metroid? Okay, granted, some of these games are on some virtual consoles somewhere, perhaps a Game Boy Advance collection of some kind, but not in a long time. Not in modern consoles. There's no modern console you can just jump into and play Super Ghouls and Ghosts or Earthbound. I mean, you can't really do that.
Yeah.
And that's where the Super Nintendo Classic really nailed it. And in terms of games that are stuck on the PlayStation, where you just can't go out cheaply and find it, I mean, again, Breath of Fire 3 or 4. Parappa the Rapper.
Why not Parappa?
Come on.
Everybody loves that.
That's a no-brainer. You have to have Parappa on here.
Have you ever met anyone that did not love Parappa? Even if you've never played it.
Punch, it's all in the mind.
Just go on YouTube and listen to the music in Parappa.
It's the most original game that had ever come out.
It's so charming. Yeah. I love the music. I could just listen to that all day long.
I know. It's unbelievable.
I loved Parappa back in the day. It was super hard.
It was. It was a little frustrating at times how hard it was.
It was a little too hard. I just don't understand. They didn't go on sales figures.
No idea.
They didn't go on fan popularity or demand. What
it's
did
a disgrace
they do to
the
choose?
console. It really is. I have no idea what they were thinking.
How did they choose this list? I don't understand where this came from.
I probably never will own it unless it's $20 or less. I'm never going to own it.
I'll pick it up at a garage sale in about 2 years.
Sure.
Because that's how these things go.
They'll last $10. I'll offer them $5. That's how that's going to go.
Yeah, and then we'll be accused of lowballing.
Yeah. Hey, guess what? I don't care.
Don't care.
No.
So, there are a lot of PlayStation games that have just not aged very well. They were 3D. They were one of the first 3D games. They're hard to control, these games. You know, your Tomb Raider and your Resident Evil. I totally get it, but there are enough games that are still really fun to play and that have aged really well.
And think about no loading times, because on a PlayStation Classic you have no loading times. So all those RPGs were the biggest like gripe that a lot of us had, where you could just sit there and take a nap when it was loading. And now that's all going to be gone, hopefully, with the PlayStation Classic.
Yeah.
So give us those RPGs that we so desperately want to play, that are stuck on, like Xenogears. Again, how else are you going to play Xenogears? There's no other way to play it.
Even Mortal Kombat 3 would have been a better choice than Toshinden.
Oh, yeah, totally.
I would say Symphony of the Night is the most baffling omission on the entire list. There's no licensing issues. It's a Konami game. There's other Konami games on this. Metal Gear Solid was a Konami game.
You can go on your Xbox and just download Symphony of the Night right now. I mean,
it's such a well-loved game, and it's aged so well. I think it's the most baffling
I agree.
game not on here. I don't get why.
And then beyond that,
you don't need
the RPGs.
You don't need a DualShock either to play
true.
Symphony of the Night, which is another plus, because we're not getting a DualShock.
Yep. I have no idea what they're thinking.
And the lack of expensive games. And you don't need it. You don't need to fill the list with $100 titles. I get it.
That's true.
But charging $100 for your system, they really needed at least 2 or 3. You know, Valkyrie Profile, Klonoa, Suikoden 1 or 2. Like, that would have helped a lot to justify this price tag. But I don't know. I'm not getting this PlayStation Classic. I have no interest in it. Even if they did limit the supply like Nintendo did, whether that was artificial or not, it was very hard to find at first. Even if Sony did that, I still don't see it being worth a lot.
The price point for me personally to buy the PS1 Classic, I think, would be $20 or less. And we're way off from that right now.
Final Fantasy VII is the only game that I really want to play again, and that's coming out on Switch.
Yeah, I'm buying it on Switch. I'm not buying it. I mean, that's a handheld game.
Yeah.
I don't know, Sony, what are you thinking? Why are you doing this to us? Maybe they're going to learn a lesson and they're going to give us the PS1 Classic version 2 full of RPGs and Symphony of the Night. I don't know.
Right, I think they farmed it out. I don't even think they developed it in-house. And just picked 20 games. How they came up with that selection, I don't get it. What would your 20-game list be? I could probably come up with 20 games.
Well, let's start with what they got right. Metal Gear Solid, Final Fantasy VII. How about Final Fantasy 8 or 9?
Yes.
Both?
Yeah.
Okay, so Final Fantasy 8 and 9. Symphony of the Night, no-brainer.
Final Fantasy VII.
I already got
Parappa.
Parappa.
Mortal Kombat 3.
Are we keeping Abe's Odyssey on here?
Yeah, we'll keep Oddworld, Mortal Kombat 3, Tekken 2 or
Tekken
3,
2,
or both.
I would put a Ridge Racer game on there.
We can put
keep
a
the one
Ridge
they
Racer
have,
game.
or put the first one on there. So now we're at 10.
Klonoa on there.
Klonoa, Xenogears. Absolutely have to have Xenogears on there.
Put Xenogears on there.
Chrono Cross, Legend of Dragoon.
Parasite
Those have
Eve.
to be on there. Parasite Eve. Silent Hill. Grandia.
Yeah.
So now we're about, what, 17?
With a lot of RPGs, but...
You know what? Nintendo was RPG heavy with theirs, so...
They were. And RPGs have actually aged a lot better than most other games from that generation.
If I was to go out and buy Star Ocean or...
Valkyrie
Profile, I mean, these are not cheap games to just go out and buy to try it out, right? And so that's kind of what I would look for. Even Final Fantasy Tactics would have been a decent choice. A lot of people really love that game. That's why my list would be at least 50% RPGs. Plus, the RPGs in the console are so good.
Yeah. I'm with you. 50% RPGs, and the rest of them would be Symphony of the Night and Klonoa and Parappa and games that are still fun to play. And definitely not Destruction Derby and Rainbow Six. Like, who cares about those games anymore? I don't know.
Yeah, they really dropped the ball. You disappointed me, Sony. Make it up to me next year,
yes,
please.
Please. The end.